Rise of the Tomb Raider is an Xbox One exclusive, and what an Xbox One exclusive it is. I've played about all 4 Xbox One exclusives, and let me tell you, this one has to be the best Xbox One exclusive of them all. This Xbox One exclusive looks great on my PC, and unlike other Xbox One exclusives, this one runs at 60 FPS, and has lots of great options like AA and keyboard rebinding. You won't see that in other Xbox One exclusives. This Xbox One exclusive is a solid addition to my Steam library. Xbox One exclusive. Fucking Xbox. You think I'm done with the nitpicking? Nope, not done yet. Let's needlessly obsess over another relatively meaningless aspect of the game. Look at that title, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Immediately stupid title, right? Not even touching on the fact that it's too long. Lara Croft rose in the last game, unless you want to suggest she was the Tomb Raider in that game and is now rising to become the Tomb Raider, as if that makes any sense. Also, the raiding of tombs is optional, so the title is literally a contradiction and a lie too. Sleep well in your single bedroom apartment with no running water, knowing that someone got paid to come up with that. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, Lara Croft is a little bit fucked up in the head, you know, after all the killing and stuff on the island. Anyway, she's become obsessed with her dad's research, in particular, research which disgraced him regarding the lost city of Katesh and the Divine Source, an artifact that grants immortality to those who acquire it. But she's not alone, because Trinity, which can most aptly be described as Scientology with guns, are going after it too. Except they're the bad guys because, I guess they kill people. Because PMC, that's all the justification you need. While I wouldn't exactly classify the story as great, it had good pacing and constantly feels like it's going somewhere. From the start, you pretty much know what the goal is, which makes the plot more coherent. That said, it's not exactly profound or anything. If you've watched or played any action-adventure movie or game, you know where it's gonna go. And the dialogue doesn't exactly pop, so the cutscenes can get pretty tedious at times. At least the performances are good, namely Camilla Luddington's performance as Lara Croft. She continues to nail this role. Now, I didn't think Tomb Raider 2013 had that great of a story, to be honest. I was supposed to be motivated to save the most vapid and annoying member of the crew, all the while sacrificing the ones I actually liked, and the central plot was paper thin. Thankfully, this game's story benefits over the original in a lot of ways. First of all, there's an actual premise and end goal with clear antagonists and a formidable threat in the form of Trinity. Rise of the Tomb Raider also doesn't have the same blatant cognitive dissonance like the first one did. Unlike this game's predecessor, which made a big song and dance about Lara's first kill, only to throw you into a gunfight 1 minute later with 20 Goombas featuring fucking bows, pickaxes and heads, and guys burning alive while screaming in agony. This game benefits from being upfront about the fact that Lara's pretty cool with shoving knives in jugulars. Before we dissect the gameplay, let's not ignore the fact that Rise of the Tomb Raider is a very nice looking game. The in-engine cutscenes look fantastic, character models and animations are top notch, and the environments on the whole are impressive. The sound design is pretty good too, which includes the soundtrack. It's not super inspired, but it's still a good one. From a gameplay perspective, Rise of the Tomb Raider is very similar to the 2013 reboot. It's a third-person shooter slash action-adventure slash platformer slash Metroidvania. I mean, so many slashes, you'd think it's some talentless idiot celebrity who's simultaneously trying to be an actor slash singer slash entrepreneur in spite of having a complete dearth of talent. I haven't replayed the reboot recently, but from what I can tell, the overall gameplay and design is very similar between the two titles, with only minor additions in form of a few new combat and traversal tools. Other than that, you're still going to be shooting dudes, climbing cliff faces, and exploring semi-open world environments. I don't really expect sequels to drastically change the core design every time, and for the most part, I liked the formula before, so it remaining largely intact isn't really a big deal for me. That said, being so similar to the original reboot means the flaws of the original game get carried over, namely in the gunplay. Gunplay in Rise of the Tomb Raider is undeniably fun, but it simply is not as smooth or invigorating as other third-person shooters. I still don't like that there's no hard cover system, or the fact that you're not really going to be swapping out your weapons with enemies on the fly. I don't like that you can't run and gun, and that the level design doesn't really incorporate verticality actively into the combat, and overall firefights just feel kind of sloppy. I get that that's what they were going for with the whole theme about survival, but if it makes the game less fun, I'd rather you not do it. Like, you don't exactly need to be a fucking super sleuth to figure out that the Tomb Raider reboot series takes more than a few cues from the Uncharted series, which, ironically enough, took a lot of cues from Tomb Raider in the past. Now, I absolutely love Uncharted started, especially 1 and 2, and given how good I got at the single player, beating all of them on crushing multiple times, I figure I'm a good enough authority to discuss the similarities, and the way I see it, the comparisons are more than apt. As I've already highlighted, I don't think there's any contest in terms of gunplay. Uncharted has better gunplay and smoother controls. But while playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, I started to realize there were certain aspects of the game's design that I liked more. The Metroidvania style level design is something I'm a fan of. The game is still linear, do not mistake me. During certain encounters you'll feel like you're playing on a goddamn T-square, but there's certain elements of exploration, and exploring is made rewarding with the promise of new equipment and information to piece together the extended lore, which you can see has had meticulous detail applied. The addition of side missions is welcome, but it would have been better if they weren't mainly fast quests, since we all love that crap, right? While I think it's a bit stupid that raiding tombs is optional in Tomb Raider, the optional tombs are a blast to work through. You'd have to be a fucking goat not to figure out the puzzles, but it's always cool to locate and try and work through a detailed and meticulously planned location to find hidden secrets, and they make for a good change of pace. The skill tree system carried over from the original is also a great component. It gives the game a bit more depth and rewards players who explore the environment and play well, as scoring headshots, multi-kills and silent takedowns net far more points. It's also extremely satisfying to constantly find yourself upgrading your weaponry, steadily making Lara even stronger. Upgrades can range from things like extended magazines, attachments that reduce recoil and damage buffers. The weapons you acquire also have secondary firing modes. A lot of emphasis was put on the bow, which for some reason has more stopping power than a bullet. Yeah, look, you know what, actually, tangent time. Why do games do this? Yeah, a sharpened stick fired from a wire attached to a piece of wood is better at killing people than literally dozens of aerodynamically designed chunks of lead fired from a mechanical weapon at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Alright, tangent over. Anyway, as I was saying, the bow can be equipped with poison arrows, explosive arrows, and a few more, while a lot of the traditional weapons have things like an incendiary firing mode. Lara is also able to create makeshift bombs and molotovs, which are great for crowd control, but probably a little too convenient since these things will win gunfights. So in many ways, Rise of the Tomb Raider is competent and in league with its similar counterparts. While the core gunplay itself is kind of weak, it makes up for it with all of these layers on top. And while there's not a huge amount of freedom of choice, the fact that there is at least some is refreshing in an age where a condescending goddamn follow beacon hovers over buff American stereotypical soldier number 371 who you have to wait for to open a simple fucking door. I played the game on normal difficulty, which I quickly realized was a mistake because dying during combat on normal difficulty comes about as frequently as an even semi-coherent video on BuzzFeed Yellow. I defy you to die once during combat on normal difficulty. It cannot be done. The only times I died during the entire game were from poor jumps and one trap I screwed up near the beginning of the game. Not one enemy managed to put enough bullets into me to kill me. Not even the bullshit heavily armored super enemies who charge you with swords. I died more times in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, for Christ's sake. Why is the game so easy? First of all, the healing mechanic is a plain bad one because you're never going to be in a situation where you cannot heal yourself. You're always going to have the items to craft it. There's also an ability which brings you back to full health the instant you hit critical health. You can only do it once per combat encounter, but once is always enough. Also, the enemies are way too stupid to be a challenge. They don't really move around, so landing headshots is easy. I beat Rise of the Tomb Raider in about 8 hours, which is just a little bit longer than it took me to beat the last game. And keep in mind, there are still optional tombs to explore and side missions to do. But now that I'm finished, there's not exactly a huge amount of incentive to do that, at least in my eyes. The ultimate question for those of you who value my opinion way too much is whether or not Rise of the Tomb Raider is worth your money. I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the game, because I absolutely did. It's fun, it's varied, and there's enough action-adventure goodness to satisfy the average player. But my difficulty in recommending this game at full price is that there's not really enough substantive content on offer here. The main game is definitely substantive, but the extra stuff is basically padding. Rise of the Tomb Raider has a bunch of optional collectibles, tombs, and side missions, but once you beat the game, the incentive to do any of that is kind of lost, and while the main single player is fun, you will get through it fairly quickly, and no multiplayer makes this problem more apparent. If you're the type of person who enjoys going back and getting things that don't really contribute to the main game, then you'll probably find the content worth the full asking price here. If you're like me and have a hard time doing meaningless things for the sake of filling time, perhaps not. Don't mistake this criticism for hatred. I thoroughly recommend Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's an undeniably good game. Not amazing, but good, and more than a competent sequel. That said, it's not an instant sell for full price, or a game I would immediately recommend to someone who isn't already a fan of third-person action games. Oh shit, I got nothing to work with for an ending joke. Oh wait, yes I do! If you want to pick up this Xbox One exclusive, make sure to get the 60 FPS edition on PC. Ha! Ha!